Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man Frank Scalish. It is Day 4, number 115. And currently, Frank is on the West Coast watching your
Currently,
daughter graduate, correct? So this is a recorded show.
this is a recorded show, and yes, I'm actually watching her graduate.
You have to. That has to be exciting.
Everything's exciting to me about it except LA.
Well, you got one that's like a college pitcher, one that's graduating out there. You got Frankie Jr. He's running shop in the BFLs.
And then we got my son Noah, who's a firefighter in Raleigh.
We have not had Noah on yet.
No, we have not.
Is he bass fish?
He'll go out and bass fish with me for
a no
for an hour.
That's fine.
For an hour, and then I took him in. Noah's an ex-Marine, and and of
good
course,
guy to have around.
Yeah, and then of course Frankie, was in the Army, so they're very different. Frankie will sit on that boat all freaking day long, and he'll fish his brains out.
Oh yeah.
And Noah, on the other hand, loves to catch them, and he wants to catch a handful of them, and then he's done.
And then Josh is in the middle.
Josh is also ate up with it. Josh could spend all day in the boat.
Okay.
Also, unless his girlfriend calls, then he wants to leave. But so
that's a low blow, Fred.
I know. I hit him. I hit him where it hurts. I'm sorry, buddy. Love you, man. But so this is the greatest.
That was so low.
This is the greatest story on earth, man.
I can't imagine him telling you, Dad, you got to drop me off the bank. Anyway, greatest story on earth. Hit it.
He doesn't say that, but I can tell when she texts him and we're in the boat, he gets a little anxious. So Noah and his buddy they're still in the Marine Corps. They got leave. They come up here. I'm on them so good it's sickening. And of course, it's all Carolina rig fish. So for those two guys who are not, they're not,
they don't fish every day.
Yeah, they're not articulate anglers. Okay, so this was perfect because this is an easy technique to teach them. So neither one of them could throw a bait caster. So what I did was I put braid on spinning rods and set them up Carolina rigs on
basically a mojo rig.
Basically, but like legit, 3/4 ounce.
Call the mojo rig not legit.
Yeah, but I mean a legit Carolina rig.
Okay.
So anyhow, we are absolutely plowing them. I mean, plowing them. And about 11:30, I'm more excited than they are, and I'm like, "What's the matter?" And Noah just looks at me, and goes, "Dad, we're kind of done." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, we're kind of done." I come to find out later that they went on like a binger the night before. Neither one of them have slept. You know what I mean?
Crush you.
Oh, it did, and it was so hot. It was miserable hot out, and those two were just leaching booze through every pore in their body. It was so disgusting. But yeah, it was demoralizing. We were catching them so good. I mean, we were just catching them.
That's fantastic. Last week's show, we talked about junk fishing. We talked about, that 6 to 10 bites a day on 5 or 6 different baits. It was a really good show, even though you were not a fan of junk fishing. A lot of good information in that show. Today, we're going to talk about another, I guess it's this time of the year too, something else that can be a little bit tricky. Like you like to talk about the stuff where you find the groups, you're catching them every cast, you're dialing them in.
Right.
Suspended bass suspended bass are tricky, Frank.
Yeah, they are. They are. And we're going to cover that today as detailed as we can without getting too far in the weeds, because there's certain parts of this that I would like to really deep dive in. But so first off, just to start the show off, BTL 100 code ends June 30th. So whoever's not whoever hasn't taken advantage of that discount, jump on it. I know it's the 1st of June, and there's, after today, 29 more days, but um, just be cognizant of that.
Does not work on sale stuff though.
No, it does not work on sales.
And I
stuff.
don't think paint shop stuff
And
either,
not
because
the
there's
paint
only
shop.
300,
Right.
usually 300 paint shop,
Right.
unless it happens to be a product that sells 300 in the first 1.9 minutes, and then they have to make more.
And the system breaks down.
Unless the BTL listeners
it explodes.
completely destroy the LureNet ordering system.
Love it.
In the first 3 minutes, it had to get more.
That was one of the best things that ever happened, by the way. I just have to say that.
Selling out the color number 7 is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
we had remember we talked about before that show, like you were like, I remember you were a little bit, you felt vindicated because you were like, I told him.
Yeah.
I told him 300's not enough. I told him
they
need to have the site ready. I told him, and we were sitting there before the 100th show going, do you think we could do you think this could lock the site up? And I was like, surely not. And then we're like, it's kind of antiquated a little bit. And dude, minute and a half in, dud, melted the server.
We actually were talking about it before we went on, and we were making fun of it, going, wouldn't that be crazy if they locked the system up or, broke the system? So we were making fun of it. Really.
Didn't think it could ever happen.
Never. And it did.
Actually did.
It was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous.
It was fabulous unless you were one of the 1,000 people that were trying to that were trying to get the order in. But then the cool thing was fast tracked. This has never been done before in the paint shop. In the history of the paint shop, was we realized how many guys wanted to get color, and gals wanted to get the color 7. So you made calls, and then LureNet fast tracked through all the channels to get it. Look, I still got it right here. Here's the interesting thing that I did, and I meant to do this last week. So this is the
you could tell which version is which because mine's autographed. I signed and dated yours.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I was just going to compare as to how close. Okay, so this one is yours.
Correct.
And it's got the sign and date on the bottom. But I'm amazed at how close they were able to get.
Oh, yeah. They did a fabulous job.
The only thing that's noticeably different is you have a faded 7 on the bottom of yours, and that 7 is more solid.
Correct.
But like from the sparkles to the hint of chartreuse.
Yeah, they got it.
To everything, it's friggin' dialed.
Yeah, and I want to tell you how hard that color is to paint, because I've got pearls and stuff overlaid in there. Mm-hmm. That color is tricky to paint, and they did a fabulous job. I mean, an absolute spot-on job with that.
I would assume by now they're probably sold out again.
Well, I would have no way of checking into the near future.
Well, here's the deal. How does one get a color like in production? So just like a normal color, like to where it's like, hey, we offer color 7, just like we offer every other color, and it's not a specialty color.
Okay, so what happens is I paint my bait, my version of whatever I want. So let's call it color A. I paint color A. I paint them a couple of finished products. Like if this is fried green tomatoes, so it doesn't count, but because I didn't do fried green tomatoes, obviously everybody knows it. So let's just say I take fried green tomatoes. Okay,
that's freaking badass.
I'm gonna paint this color. Okay. So as I have the vision in my head, as I start laying down my tones for it, I literally start writing down formulas for it. Okay. So I say, okay, my bait, if I'm doing a transparent bait, semi-transparent bait, I say, okay, I'm going to lay down pewter pearl. Keep it transparent, spray the whole bait pewter pearl. Then I go on to the next step. And then the next step might be the quintessential gut bag. So I'll say paint the belly of the bait only where the stomach is white. And then I'll say the next step is to paint white pearl over the white belly, gradiated out to the tail. So I do a paint by numbers. And then I give the paint by numbers, the finished products that I painted, to them, and then they go through and then they paint them, and they write their formulas down for mass production painting. Now that doesn't mean painted by a machine. There's people that paint them, and so then everybody will get their list of how they have to paint this bait.
Right.
And then they paint it. Sometimes it'll go through the assembly line where one guy's responsible for this pearl, one guy's responsible, boom, boom, boom. Everybody does something. Then the finished products go to quality control, and they make sure that bait matches the one that they got from me. So you see, the more complicated the paint job,
right,
the more stringent quality control has to be. And color 7 was a very complicated color. I think color 7 had, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and check, but I think it had 14 or 15 steps to it. So they had to make sure that every step they did was perfect along the way. And that's how it's,
I feel like a color like Okie Shad would have like a bunch of steps to it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, they do. Some of them look
complicated and they're not, and
complicated and they're not. Like I'm working on another series of colors which I can't disclose yet, for them, that the first set that I've done look insane. They're awesome. They look crazy complicated. But they're not really, because they're all transparent type colors with pearl overlays and so forth on them. And it's just a matter of following the order in which you're laying this stuff out. Because if you change the order of anything, it changes the color of the bait.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay, wait, follow-up question. So like heading one knocker spooks.
Yes.
So like I'm on the site right now. There's Ghost.
Pull it up so I could see it. Can you do that?
Yeah, there's Ghost, Okie Shad, Pearl Shad.
Yeah.
Finish Foxy Shad. So how do we get 7 into the rotation of this to where it's not a specialty color, but it's one of their staples? See what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
like how do they determine what colors go into regular production as opposed to just a one-off specialty?
Okay. So what happens there is, the beauty part about the paint shop and the beauty part about Bass Talk Live is that we can actually track responses. So now what happens is, since we know the color 7 had a big response, although I will say this, color 7 might not be a good color to choose from, because it's that color had a lot of meaning to our base, to Bass Talk Live fans. But what would happen in general would be, we would go, okay, that color sold. So we have all the colors and we rate them how well they sell. And we take the top selling colors, and those in turn go into the line. To make it short, sweet, and simple. That's how it works. Because now we don't have to guess. We already know. You know what I mean? There's no guessing anymore. In the old days, before we had the venues of social media, et cetera, it was a pretty good educated guess on what you were going to put in the line. And a lot of colors would go into lines, not only with our brands, but other brands. A lot of colors would go in the lines, and then you would notice that a lot of colors would get discontinued because they wouldn't sell.
I got you. Good stuff. Just a little bit behind the scenes look there on how stuff goes down.
Yeah, crazy. I said that was got nothing to do with suspended bass, man.
Well, I'm sure there's a suspended bass or two that's smoked a one knocker in their day.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Do you want to start this deep dive here, because this is probably one of the trickier one of the trickier shows that we've done in the 115 episodes is the
Yeah.
suspended bass. I mean, if you're a master of catching the suspended fish, you've probably
you could
won
get
some simoleons in your day.
yeah, you get fat in a hurry on them. So here, let's just start this thing going.
Okay.
So, okay, so here I've seen because I'm going to break this down, and then people are going to go, "Oh no, that's BS." Because okay, so here I've seen suspended bass in all seasons, obviously with the exception of the full spawn. Okay, we know that when they're spawning, they're not over 30 feet of water suspending. But I've seen them suspend in all seasons for various reasons. But there are times when bass will have a tendency to suspend more.
Mhm.
Okay. So, for example, winter. Winter is a for sure suspending bass bite. The advent of the Flash Mob Junior, the A rig, the advent of the A rig, um, gave us the ability to catch those fish with more consistency in the wintertime because they won't always come and take a jerk bait. Now, there are times when the jerk bait will outperform a Flash Mob Junior, but for the most part, the winter suspending bass, that Flash Mob made them catchable for us. And then, of course, forward facing sonar. Um, doesn't suck because now you could see where they're at and you could
Right.
cast to where they're at. So that would lead to early spring. So up north, it would be considered ice out conditions or very early spring where you guys live, where you never see ice. Okay. That's just the winter movement moving towards spring. So at that point in time, those bass are still suspending, only they're moving towards where they're going to spawn. In fact, by the time the ice melts up here, the bass are already staging where they're going to spawn, but they're suspending out away from it. And where you guys are, they're staging where they're going to go up to spawn or run up the creek mouths or the pocket mouths. That's why a lot of times guys will be catching them in the guts of short
Right.
pockets in those guts. Okay, so then the other time they suspend, which is probably the most tricky, is the late post spawn as they're gravitating from the spawn to
Mhm.
summer pattern.
That's what's happening right now here
It's happening right now. This is the slop time that we
in the
talked about last week.
Midwest southern states, I guess.
Right. But we have some lakes up here that are in that transition
Okay.
too. But most of them are not. We're still kind of predicated. We're still late spawn. There's still a lot of spawning going on up here. But that post spawn period is in my opinion is the trickiest because you have fish doing a lot of different things. The ones that are going to start suspending, the ones that are going to that are closer to the summer pattern, those are the ones that are going to start to suspend off of, and I'm going to call it the first major drop off the bank related stuff. They'll start to suspend out there. Here I have I have an example. This could work. Okay, this could work. So where you see this, whoops, where you see this right here, where I have the yellow lines,
Mhm.
that's the first major drop off the bank because you see this is the bank right here, right?
Yep.
So this is the first major break off the bank. So they'll start to suspend out here as they gravitate towards true offshore stuff.
Okay.
So they'll start to that's where they're going to go. That's when you intercept them there, you're almost all the way home for where they're going to be in the summer. So if you stay on them after the post spawn starts to tighten up and it's early summer, if you stay on them there, you'll be able to catch them all the way through late summer, which is the other time. Late summer is when the summer pattern is transitioning into fall, but it's not fall. You still have, 90-degree days, but everything's moving because it's the end of summer. Even though it's hot outside, the bass have their biological clocks or the shad do, and they start to run after the shad. And that's really that late summer period. You can do some really fascinating things then. I'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, they're more, but they're totally two different reasons why they're out there as
Correct.
opposed to now, as opposed to in the fall.
Correct. And
Same areas, totally different mindset, or I don't know, say
right.
mindset, but
But
your
it is.
fish are in totally different conditions.
Right, but you're right, Matt, because what's happening late summer is it's all predicated on feeding. And so the shad are moving and they're
Yeah,
moving with the shad. And so that's the difference. At the end of the post spawn,
recovery.
it's recovery and they're moving out to their summer haunts because most of the shad now are coming
Yeah,
off the bank. Although we know from the threadfin shad show that I did that threadfin um, will spawn multiple times in a season. Um, so there'll be mini shad spawns happening in places, but
I
that's a
got
whole
you.
different animal. Um, so so we know that. So we say, how do you find them? Um, and winter locations, early spring locations. Um, I preach this and preach this and preach this all the time. When you launch your boat and you're idling out from wherever you launch your boat, look at your 2D sonar because you're gonna run over bait balls. You have to look how deep those bait balls are because that's going to give you a depth clue. So you don't want to miss out on that. Because if you're running over bait and it's all in 12 feet of water, then obviously you need to start looking at structural elements that come out and start to peter off at 12 feet because the bass will relate to the bump. The bump might be in 12 feet and the bass will suspend off of it in 12 feet and intercept the shad as their shad are moving towards that high spot. And so that's what you want to, that's really kind of how you narrow it down because suspending fish they're tough. They're real tough to catch, but with forward facing sonar, you could see them now.
Hmm.
So now you're not blind. Where before with my 2D, I literally would have to idle around off of the structure until I found the shad. And then what I would do is I would drop a waypoint over the shad, back my boat up, and then cast through the balls of shad to catch them. So it was a little more arduous with 2D sonar, but it can be done because that's what I used to do. Um, Early spring, like we covered earlier, you're just going to look for the near spawning locations, and then you're going to do pretty much the same thing. Lures that could play early spring and late winter or winter and early spring easy. We already said A rigs, jerk baits, jig heads with swim baits on them, FF sonar minnow, for example. Ned dingers is another Ned rig is another really good bait because if the fish are not that aggressive, the lighter the Ned head, the net will spiral as it
Hmm.
sinks.
Look
And
like
if
a
you
dying or injured bait fish.
100%, it's a perfect imitation. And so what happens is the lighter that jig head you use on your Ned rig, the slower the fall and the wider the spiral. And so it just falls real nice and slow. It's deadly on suspending bass, especially if they're really super finicky. It's deadly.
A Ned
Um,
Dinger, that's what you're talking
yeah,
about?
and so you know what? We'll go down this road right now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, but if we're
You're
on the
not It's
road,
not
let's
a
roll.
derailment because this is this is in my boat. Oh, upside down. This is in my boat. And you can see I got it all the colors labeled in here. This is my Ned box. It's really simple. It's not a big box, see?
Yeah.
But I have a ton of baits and we got all these new colors in the Ned dingers, which I'm really happy about. So okay, so I have Elder's Magic, which is one of my favorites. And this box is like you guys, there's a lot of new colors in it, so you'll have to go to LureNet and check them out. But I got my favorites in here. So I got Elder's Magic, like I said. Then I have in here, I'm gonna try to do this without
Yep. That looks fantastic. Don't spill them. That's perfect there, Uncle Frank.
GB Hayes.
Yep.
And then I've got Pumpkin Groove. Oh, where did this one come from?
I don't know. It just jumped out of there.
It jumped right out. And then I have Pumpkin Groove, which is here. Green Pumpkin. This is backwards on my screen. Green Pumpkin Blue. And then I have I have hold on a second. I'm gonna pull this out because I want to show it to you.
Yeah.
And so
fine.
then I have Green Clown, but I want to show you Green Clown in person. So okay, so here's what I got. So Green Clown. So this color here, this is my perch.
Yeah, that looks very perchy.
For all you smallmouth fanatics out there, this is
called Green Clown.
Green Clown. This is real perchy. So then I'll take where the tail is, and there's an air bubble in the tail. You can see the air bubble in the tail.
Mm-hmm.
That's so that when it's on the bottom, it's going to stand up for you. Okay, so I'll take the air bubble and I'll dye a little bit of chartreuse on the air bubble, and that's my smallmouth candy right there. So anyway, but as you can see, my Ned box isn't that big because it doesn't have to be. Now there's another color, Northern Lights is another color that that should be in here too. But you go on the site and look at them. There's tons of new colors. You could pick the colors out for your lakes because you know how it is. Every lake has certain color hues that, you know, work really well in those bodies of water. So you want to kind of stay in that realm of the lakes that are by you. Like I know what works by me, especially on the Great Lakes. Those colors may not translate in some of the more dirtier reservoirs. So you want to just check out the colors so you can see what works in your area. But anyway, so where were we?
Talking about suspended. You're talking about the suspended
late post spawn.
In the late post spawn and how you could throw a Ned on them, even though it's considered mainly a bottom bait. That a lot of with a light head, you'll catch them suspended and they'll follow. I guess I assume where you're going was that they'll either follow it down or hit it as it suspends.
As it falls through them. They'll take it as it's dropping through because it does mimic a dying shad pretty well. So let's talk about it. So you're going to have late post spawn. You're going to have near shore structural elements. You're still going to be fairly close to the spawning areas, and you're going to work your way out this time of year. Work your way out to find the fish.
Okay.
And once you locate those fish in one area, you'll be able to duplicate this throughout the system. Throughout the lake system, understanding that as you get closer to the dam area, if it's a reservoir, as you get closer to the dam area, it might be a tad bit behind what's going on in the midsection or up by the river section. So just remember that. Some of the baits that I like this time of year, I'll throw lures like the break-in shad, which is a super fluke style bait, even the super fluke, flick shakes, Ned rigs, crankbaits. And here's a neat crankbait, the Norman Deep Baby N. It's a smaller version of the Deep Little N.
Mm-hmm.
It's dynamite this time of year, especially when those fish are in that 4 to 8 foot range. That little bait it's like popcorn to a bass. So you'll want to check that out. Of course, swim baits, spinner baits, chatter baits, and of course, jerk baits. Yeah, that's the Deep ABN. That bait is absolutely fantastic right now. Before those bass lock in on deep summer, that bait right there is just bass candy. In fact, when I started fishing Bassmasters and right before Bassmasters, we had those baits, and we would upsize we'd upsize the belly hook on them, and one size bigger, and you'd be surprised the size of the bass you catch on that bait. Now, as I fished this bait more and more and more throughout my career, I decided that I like the action better with the normal size hooks on it. So that's what I started doing. I stopped upsizing my belly hook because that bait right there will come through willow bushes and everything like a champ. So don't overlook that bait. But with the bigger hook on it, you're going to snag in the brush more. With the normal hooks it comes on, it'll come right through things you won't even believe it comes through. So that's that. Anyhow, so we're going to go to the next, I'm going to say the next real suspending time of year where they're actually doing this out of necessity for survival, and that's going to be the late summer. And here's a really good clue for you guys to know when this is going on. When we talk about summer structure fishing all the time, and so when we're on the big crankbait bites and we're on the football jig and Carolina rig bites and we're catching them, and you're in the heat of the summer, and this is what I live for, these summer bites. What happens is, depending on current pool in a reservoir, wind direction, because if the current's flowing one way, the wind blows the other way, it stalls the current. You could be in the prime time for true summertime structure fishing, and it puts a halt to what you're doing, and the fish will suspend off of that structure because they no longer have to be on it. They can suspend off of that structure. The current will stop, and then the shad don't have to relate to the current breaks or up in front of the current break. They don't have to relate to that, so they could start milling around. And so that'll pull the bass off of the structure in true summer fishing, okay? So remember when we did the blueback herring show, the gizzard shad show, and the threadfin show, right? This is important. There was really good detail in those episodes. So to sum it up, blueback herring, threadfin shad. The sunnier the day, the closer to the surface those bait fish go. All right. So that's important to remember.
Because that could lead to suspending fish.
100%. Gizzard shad, on the other hand, avoid the surface on sunny days. Sun comes up, gizzard shad go down. All right. Which, if you think about it, when you're structure fishing in lakes that have a good gizzard shad population, you're plowing them on the good deep baits in the summer when it's overcast and there's a little wind on the lake.
DD22 swim bait with a jig head, spoon,
100%.
Big worm that you already talked about was like a gizzard shad feeding.
Right, money. So these are huge clues that you got to pay attention to with the bait fish that are more prevalent in your lakes, because this gives you bass behavior. So on the bluebacks and the threadfin shad lakes, you know that when it's overcast, the bait fish go down and the gizzard shad come up. So then you would reverse what you're doing. Gizzard shad lakes, on cloudy days you're fishing deep. I mean the opposite way around. On sunny days you're fishing deep. On cloudy days the gizzard shad are coming to the top. So you have to understand that what each of those bait fish do under those weather conditions, and that will help keep you near where you want to be. So now that we know this, we get into the late summer phase. Now the late summer phase is when the shad in that lake, they're starting to go do their fall behavior pattern. All the shad are starting to bunch up in big schools, and they're starting to move. And the reason they do this is because there's safety in numbers from predation. They have more shad that survive in a group than individual shad swimming around.
Same thing as wildebeest on the Serengeti.
Exactly, exactly. And it's this, think of it like that. It's the Serengeti underwater. But so now the bass are suspending on purpose because they're following those bait fish.
Mhm.
Okay. And we know from past shows that there's pelagic bass that do nothing but chase the pelagics, which are the shad species, herring species, all throughout the lake and never really settle down into any structural elements until they spawn or until the fish get shallow in the move up to the creeks in the fall. So now you've got all these bass following all of this bait fish, right? So this is very predictable, even though it doesn't sound like it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for river channels on the main lake, but they have to be predicated near creek mouths. So, Matt, do you got to pull up a map of the lake? Any lake? Pull up Kerr Reservoir, since you guys were just there.
Alright.
So what you want to remember is,
Where
yeah,
am I going?
go towards the dam, and let's go. Yeah, that's good right there. Right where your cursor is. Zoom up on that a little bit. Okay, stop. Okay, so where that arrow is, where Matt's arrow is exactly right now, is where all those balls of shad are going to start to concentrate before they run up that drain. Okay? Before they start going up that drain into the shallows, they concentrate right on that location right there. So this time of year, this could be, you guys, this could be absolutely fantastic fishing. So what happens is the balls of shad will be out there. All right. Your job with your locator is to find out how deep the shad are, which you by the time you get here, you already know how deep the shad are.
So they could be 15 foot down over 75 foot of water.
100%, or they could be 30 foot down over 70 feet of water,
Okay.
or 10 feet or 20. It doesn't matter. They're going to be suspending out there. So what happens now is this is um, I am spooning like a madman this time of year, for real. And I'll throw my deep diving crankbaits as long as I know that my crankbait's going to ride above the shad, literally
Okay.
right above them or right through the shad balls themselves, but not far below them. Because as your crankbait runs through the balls of shad, it splits the shad. Bass can see that activity, and it could trigger strikes. It could trigger feeding movements from these fish. So I'll use my DD22s, fat free sevens, and I'll run them right through the balls of bait if I know that the bait's high enough where I can get those crankbaits through them. So this is really spoon heaven here. So I actually will get right on top of the shad balls.
Okay.
And here's my spoon box. Again, look, it's not big. It is not a big box. It's small. But I got a lot of lead in here. This box probably weighs 1.5 pounds.
Wow.
So here, real quick, I'll just show you what I got, and we'll talk about it. Okay, I have my 3/4 ounce cotton cord LCC spoon in silver. Ouch. And in gold. Oh, here's my in gold. All right. Except I
Yep.
got the one with the hook on it right here. In
Okay.
gold. Because I'm an old guy, I got my 3/4 ounce Hopkins spoon because I grew up on those. So I always have them, just force of habit. In silver and gold. Okay. Now I have my flutter spoons. Okay, the big flutter spoon. So here, let's just talk about something here. Flutter spoons are for a more horizontal approach. You're going to cast the flutter spoon out and you're going to let it sink down through the shad. Almost 100% of your bites on the flutter spoon come as it's falling. That's just the way it works. It flutters through the balls of shad, looks like a dying shad. The bass come up, boom, and they get it, and you got them. This is horizontal. This is where I'm casting it out over the shad and letting it fall through the shad.
Okay.
Okay. This works on structure fishing too when the bass are aggressive. So, all right, now the CC spoons, Hopkins spoons, just your jigging spoons. Let's just call them jigging spoons. Vertical. You got to be on top of them.
What's the difference between a CC and the Hopkins? They look very similar to me. Sorry, that's a rookie question. But
no, it's not a rookie question. It's actually a damn good question. This is why I got them both in the boat.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Because
so,
they look like the same thing.
They do. So the CC spoon, the weight in it, and the way it's designed with the hooks off of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see how the hooks off the body, and then your line tie is off the body.
Yep. Are you adding that barrel swivel?
Yeah, I'm adding the barrel swivel. Okay, we're gonna go into a little bait hack right now. Okay, so I add the split ring and the crane swivel to the bait. That gives the bait ease of it flutters easy on the way down. It's freer movement. So when you snap it up and it darts to the side and flutters down, it doesn't take away from the movement of the bait. And if you notice, all my spoons have it on. Okay. So where the CC spoon, where the CC spoon will flutter, it falls and it flutters really good. Offers a lot of flash as it's fluttering down. Your Hopkins spoon darts more.
Okay.
It swings down, darts more, swings down, darts more. So when I can fish the 3/4. They're both 3/4. Okay. The CC spoon will actually fall a little slower.
Okay.
Because how it flutters going down. So that's what so it's all predicated on the behavior of the bass. Okay. If the bass are aggressive and want something going through them, I'll throw the Hopkins. If the bass are not so as aggressive, I'll throw the CC spoon because it stays in their face longer, even though they're both 3/4 of an ounce. And then, of course,
derail you there. I was just.
Oh no, it's not.
Curious.
It was actually a fabulous question, one that I probably should have answered on my own. That's why you're here, Matt, because you pick up my slack, dude. That's why you're here.
I'm here to push buttons and ask
But yeah.
questions.
But yeah, and here another thing. I'll throw my jigging spoons on 17-pound fluoro.
Okay.
I very rarely switch that up. I'm using the 3/4 ounce. I very rarely throw a lighter one. Sometimes I'll throw a 1 ouncer, but most of the time I'm throwing 3/4. My flutter spoons, the same thing. When I first started throwing flutter spoons, I experimented with braid on them. But what happens with the braid is if it's falling on a slack line, you don't feel the bite. So on the flutter spoons, I'm kind of torn between braid and fluoro because braid's an automatic lockup. When you get them, you're automatically locked up. But that could be a bad thing too because if you have a wind bow in your line and you're not tight to the spoon, you won't feel the bite. So I kind of have went back to more fluorocarbon on the flutter spoon than braid, but both will work on that. I didn't know this was going to turn into a a spooning show.
Nothing wrong with a good old spoon every now and then, Frank.
No, heck no. So anyway, so the creek mouse thing is very
Yep.
important. So if you pull the map back up again, let's dissect it a little better than that. So now let's run across to the big creek arm. Right there. Oops, where'd you go, man? Yeah, stay out towards the main lake. Zoom in on that area right there where the little hump is. See the hump off the finger? Go the little isolated hump.
Right here?
Yep. Okay, that isolated hump right there, even though there's 50 feet of water on it, that would be one of the first places here that I'm gonna run my boat over. I'm going to look at that because it stands alone. It's very isolated from the rest of everything. Once I look at that, if there's no bait fish over that, the indication to me is that they could be farther up the system. So before I start going up that creek, I'm going to look at the 3 points pointing at that isolated bump. Right there, there, and there. I'm going to look at those 3 points. If the shad aren't over those 3 points, I'm going to run to the one above that where your arrow is, Matt. No. Yeah, right to the right. Where are you? Right across from that one. No. Yep. Go back. It's like cat and mouse. Go to your left. See that? Yes, that one.
Okay.
I'm gonna check that one. Should I just said the middle one?
Let's go. We're rolling.
So that one. So the middle one. I'm going to check there. Now, if I start to see bait, if I start to see shad there, then I'm going to go inside the creek a little bit farther, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing, working my way inside that creek arm. Because you're going to find them somewhere in there, depending on how far along they are in their fall migration. You'll find them somewhere within that vicinity. So if you do that and then you zoom out on that map, you could look at dozens of spots right now in that little bit of section that you looked at. There's dozens of places where you could conceivably find them. And understand the bigger the creek, sometimes creeks can be so big that they act as little lakes in themselves. So you may have to break the creek down into sections and then go into sections. But for the most part, that's really the thing on suspended bass. I mean, they can suspend in any season for whatever the reasons, and there are ways to catch them. But there's times when they actually do suspend, like winter, early spring, and late summer. They're actually suspending. You could try to run pelagic bass all year that do nothing but roam and chase shad, and you could find them suspending all year. In a bass tournament situation, I would tend to want something a little more consistent. If it's
because you could show up and it could be every cast, or you could show up and it could be
they could be gone.
Yeah, a desert.
Because they constantly move. So the thing is, you just got to let your locator tell you what you need to see. Understand what type of shad or herring are in your lake, so you understand, the bluebacks and the threadfin rise in the sunlight, go down in the shadows. Gizzard shad, the opposite. They come up in the shadows and go down in the sunlight.
That's some good stuff. I would like to compliment you on your vocabulary this show. Outside of the pelagic, which we say all the time, you also had arduous and quintessential.
Ooh.
Those are two high quality words that I feel like you deserve a little bit of extra credit for there, Uncle Frank.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm always working on my vocabulary and my diction.
Does that pretty much wrap it up then?
Yeah. I mean, it was simple. I mean, just go to LureNet, check out the new Ned Dinger colors because they're fantastic. and then
They are.
BTL 100 till the end of June. That's all I got.
Bad.
That was easy.
You're not going to get to do any fishing. You're in the land of the giants.
I'm in the land of the giants, and I would, yeah, okay. I'm not going to, I've been to California a bunch of times. Let's just clear the air. I had some of the best times in my life there, especially with my old sponsors, OSI.
Mm-hmm. They take you to In-N-Out Burger. Say, get whatever you want, Uncle Frank. It's on us.
We did that. We went to San Diego, and we hung out at some high-dollar sushi places. And,
okay.
You know, we had a lot of fun down there. My good friend Keith from Paul Rods lives there. I visited him up at Clear Lake. Had some fun on Clear Lake. There are definitely things about California that I love, but LA is probably. I'm just not a city guy. No, I got
attacked by a wild turkey in California. I did. At Clear Lake. Walked out of the VRBO. Angry Tom was right there.
And he
went ham on me.
Did you have a beard? Because he might have been threatened by your maleness.
He had his. Is it called a clutch? What is it called when he's got all of his ladies with him? A clutch.
A clutch. He was protecting his harem.
He was. He thought I was wanting in on some of that, and he said, "Not today."
I only got dude. I got attacked by a turkey once too. I swear to God on my life.
Oh yeah. They're bitter.
Listen to this real quick story. Cause we do a story, close the show on a story.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So when I leave my house to get to the freeway to go wherever I'm going, I pass by, there's a small Metro Parks, used to be an old golf course driving range and a golf course. Okay. Which is these places, they're polluted with deer and turkey over there. All right. So I'm driving down the road and there's two turkeys and they're coming out into the lane of traffic that I'm in. So they I stop the car. I stop my truck because I don't want to plow into them. So I stop my truck and they walk around the front of my truck. So I roll my window down because they are literally right smack dab by my driver's side window. They're like literally looking at their reflection in my truck.
Getting puffed up.
Yeah, they're getting all, juicy. So I roll the window down because they are literally like, that far from me. And this one Tom starts flapping and clawing at my truck side. Like literally, he's like pounding in the side of my truck door. So I was like, holy smokes, he's fighting himself, man. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was that. That's my turkey story. That's
a good turkey story. There we go. I liked it. It was a little show to end it. We will be back live June 8th next week.
June 8th. Perfect. Okay.
Live show, June 8th.
Love it.
We'll let you know what we're going to talk about there. But until then, suspended bass, some spoon hacks, some bait hacks, some unusual Ned tactics. I like that. The suspended bass with a Ned. You don't hear that very often.
No, the lighter the head, the better.
All right, this has been another edition of Day 4 with the man Frank Scalish. Day 4, 115. We'll see you next week for Day 4, 116. And that's how it works. After 15, then you have 16.
Perfect. Love it.
See ya.